Hi, everyone, and thanks for taking time to join and listen into our webinar today. In today's discussion, we're going to focus on how driving clean, accurate, and timely field data can lead to significant efficiency, organizational profitability, and drive down costs and increase revenue. For today's presentation, I'll be doing most of the presenting, but I'm joined by a couple of talented professionals. To introduce myself, I run the overall service execution practice here at Apex IT, which covers areas like customer engagement, service centers, and field execution, and all the connection points that lead to the back office in ERP. I've been working in this space for about 22 years in many different industries. And today I'm also joined with Todd Leday, who runs our Apex IT's ERP practice. Todd has about 25 years or so experience deploying all aspects of ERP and HCM and CX applications. And we're also joined today by Sean Nicely and Rodney Glenn, who are two of our field service experts that have a ton of experience deploying field service management and field data capture solutions on the Oracle platform. Thanks for joining me, guys. All right. Now that you know who's talking, I'd like to introduce our company. Apex IT is an award-winning consulting company focused on deploying CX, ERP, HCM, and EPM platforms. Been in business for about 28 years and have a great team of experts in these areas that are spread across US, Latin America, India, and Europe. I've been a partner of Oracle for a long time and have great relationships and understanding across their Fusion suite, as well as their legacy applications like EBS and Siebel, JD Edwards, and PeopleSoft. In fact, Oracle has recognized Apex IT as their partner of the year 6 times for our work across their Fusion stack and some of their other technologies. So we're pretty proud of that. So, well, enough about us. Wanted to get into the meat of today's discussion. So, for today's conversation, like I said, we're focusing on why capturing clean, accurate field data tied back to your back-end systems is super important for you as an organization, and it has really significant impacts to your business. We originated this webinar as a result of conversations that we've had recently with other customers and in many different industries who are attempting to modernize and streamline and improve their end-to-end sales to service execution to billing and payroll and all of those back-end processes together. And so we took what we heard and plugged some of our learnings and observations into this webinar. So today, the talk track will first address the challenges we've been seeing customers struggling with when it comes to field data capture and how it creates a whole slew of downstream challenges to processes and applications and loss of efficiency and a whole bunch of other things. Okay, so we'll talk about that. We'll touch on what we perceive as the vision or our perspective on what a fully connected system looks like as it ties sales and service and field data capture and supply chain and accounting all together in a harmonious way. Okay? And we'll cover some of the many benefits and returns that we've seen that customers realize as they are set up in that manner. So the benefits, we'll talk through those. And then we'll give a few suggestions or just general ideas on how you can begin your journey. There's a lot to this, and we're only here for a short time, so we'll give you some ideas, but then you can talk to us more in depth after the fact if you have some other thoughts and questions that we can dig into. All right, so let's dig it. Well, actually, before we do, for those attending today, if you have questions, we've got the chat going. We'll address them as we can, and then we have a time for Q&A afterwards. So, all right, let's jump into the demo. I'm sorry, into the conversation. So the challenges and what are the challenges and the issues that we often see companies struggling with? And what are the downstream consequences for those challenges, right? So let's talk about that. To start with, we thought it prudent to cover some of the common challenges we see with organizations across many industries. I would say that the most common challenge that customers deal with is bad data. Data integrity is a struggle for everyone. How do I keep data clean and current? Whether it be outdated information or delays in getting the data from the field, or even altogether missing data. As I'm sure you're all aware, this causes a whole slew of extra work for companies trying to keep it clean, especially because most companies rely on manual effort to keep the data clean and make data updates in a manual way. And they don't have proper controls over it, which results into that bad data. And we'll talk here shortly. Bad data has huge consequences across your organization, and it often starts at the beginning, and then there's a snowball effect that happens as it progresses from sales to service to billing to project up. If you're a project-based organization, to the project updates, and then overall organizational financials, and then in terms of revenue recognition, all of that is impacted by poor data, and there's a snowball effect that I'll describe in the next slide. Another common challenge that we see is closely tied to bad data is having disconnected systems or having a spider web of different systems or apps that are loosely integrated or stitched together across those different areas, sales, service, marketing, finance, etc. Right? When those applications are on different platforms or they're lightly integrated or not integrated at all, there's these problems or these data issues and the data sharing and operational efficiency. It all is effective, and it creates a whole bunch of manual processes and organizational inefficiencies that I'm sure a lot of you are struggling with. Most customers also, as a result of not being integrated, struggle with a lack of standard processes, typically across varying business lines or even by region or different personas. There's a lot of lack of standardization that we see out in the market. It's probably one of the most obvious, but it's nearly every customer has to deal with it. And that snowball effect I keep mentioning is exacerbated by this because of a lack of standardization. It leads to more inconsistent and bad data, a higher difficulty in servicing your customers, more manual processes, delays in that revenue recognition because there's a ton of wasted effort consolidating information. And then analytics are also affected too because you're not able to report off of consistent data, so there's a lot of manipulation. So it really affects your leadership's ability to get a true picture across the org. Okay. Manual processes, another obvious one. I've already touched on that multiple times, but in today's AI world, with AI driving more and more within the business, we want to get away from those manual processes. And AI is a great tool to help with that. And I mention this because so many organizations get stuck in that this is the way that we have always done it mode. And I encourage you as an organization to do better. The technology today should not necessitate having manual process, or you should be able to minimize the amount of manual processes that you have. Repetitive manual processes should be addressed and automated with technology where you can. Okay. And really, we see a lot of customers wasting literally millions of dollars and thousands of hours wasted dealing with these manual processes. And you don't always recognize it, but it is prevalent through a lot of different customers that we work with. For those of you that are doing project-based work, like in construction, engineering, and utilities, we see a lot of customers struggling to determine overall project health. So all of the tasks that are being performed, how are they doing? How are we doing from a profitability? They can't easily answer those questions. Like, are people getting their jobs done when they should? What are the risks? Are we profitable? Are we in the red or the black? Often this is a result of the disconnected systems, manual process, and a new point is around latent data coming in from the field. That causes a lot of difficulty measuring the health of a project when you're doing project-based work. We also see a lot of C&E and utility customers and other industries, frankly, having difficulty being effective with their resource scheduling and assigning crews and equipment effectively. When the crews are like, when are the crews available? What types of jobs can they handle? What kind of skills do we have? Where's the equipment at? Can they pick it up? All this kind of thing. Scheduling all of that and the logistics around that can be very difficult. And if you're dealing with that in multiple systems, which a lot of customers often are, and dealing with disconnected systems, it's very difficult to schedule and drive accurate billing when it comes to the resources that were assigned and the work that they're performing. So that's another area that we often see, especially in construction, engineering, utilities. But I'll stop there. There's so many other things that we see struggling with, but these are just a couple of examples. I'd like to talk next about the consequences of operating with these challenges, as I'm sure you all encounter today. and just at least verbalize some of the snowball effect that I mentioned a couple times. I think it's an interesting conversation. So, what are those consequences? Let's walk through a scenario where that snowball effect and how those issues compound along the way. So to set the stage, we worked with a customer who had challenges getting data from their field crews. Their crews were being asked to enter data into 4 to 5 different systems to capture time, update projects, enter expenses and materials used, and provide other debrief information from the work that they were doing in the field. Behind the scenes, those systems were not at all integrated, and there was a couple integrations, but they weren't very well integrated, and they often had issues with data latency, meaning the data wasn't entered in a reasonable amount of time, and then that resulted in bad data. There weren't controls over that. The crews were often asked to put data in every week or every 2 weeks. So oftentimes as you can guess, that led to data issues. The data was at best old, there were some scenarios where the data wasn't entered at all. And I don't know about you, but when I have a full plate of things, I forget. And that's ultimately what happened with their field team. They had difficulty tracking hours, parts used, labor from contractors, and with the delay, they'd sometimes fat finger things or they wouldn't put the right information in, and that led to billing problems and manual effort to clean that data up. And in some extreme situations, they would forget to enter, like I mentioned, and then that resulted in a loss of revenue. So let's walk through the snowball effect in this situation. When the bad data was entered and delayed in an inaccurate way, it makes it impossible to report off of, so you can't get accurate reports and bad data. Next, for those that are in the project-based work, the information that they got was inaccurate, so it resulted in difficulty measuring the project stats and the financials related to that. They couldn't see how many hours were being entered, how much equipment has been used, are they on track with things, et cetera, et cetera. The project managers had out-of-date information and often couldn't show things like project profitability easy. The bad data led to billing problems because the hours and the equipment usage and the parts may or may not have been correct. And so that led to customers challenging invoices, accounting having to talk with the crews to get the right clarifications. And then obviously that frustrated the customers because they were having to waste time dealing with billing issues and disputing charges that they were getting, right? So with those billing problems, that then get the snowball bigger. That led to revenue delays because the customer isn't paying for an incorrect invoice. Okay, and this often causes cleanup after the fact when it comes to payroll because hours are incorrectly logged. Billing changes, accounting having to get involved to correct invoices, and so on and so forth. And with all this, it leads to those customer issues dealing with those billing. They and ultimately they're frustrated because they're having to deal with this, and with that frustration, there can definitely be a lack or a reduction in revenue because those customers will find, especially in competitive markets, can find a competitor that is easier to work with and that has better processes in place. So there's real tangible effects and there's real money left on the table, hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars left on the table annually. And it shouldn't be. These are a challenge that you're facing today. The net is that not addressing these types of problems uh, is really causing has a huge effect on your business profitability and your ability to make data-driven decisions at all levels, at the field, from an operation standpoint, accounting, for billing standpoint, and at the strategic C levels, being able to see what's going on with the business. So my point here is that this is a very important topic to cover, and there's real benefit to making some changes. Okay, so lots of challenges to overcome, but there is hope. That's the message. You can tackle this, unfortunately, there's not like a magic bullet that you can implement something and it's going to fix everything in one fell swoop. It's going to take some work, organizational change, and a commitment and investment in technology, and with your business stakeholders and your technology team, and a real a drive from your leadership to do better. Okay. And so we've compiled a couple suggestions here and observations around how customers have tackled these challenges, how we've advised customers to tackle these challenges, and I'll cover some of the ROI that they've seen, some of those benefits that they see. All right. So the next few slides are going to kind of talk about what this vision is. This kind of sets the stage a little bit and describes some benefits, but then we'll talk about specifically how it can all be tied together. So the vision is to have a fully integrated platform and system. And in order to start with that, our primary suggestion to addressing the challenges that I described before is to first begin with adopting a strategy or a vision of getting into a unified platform that has capabilities spanning the full front, middle, and back office: sales, service, field execution, project management, supply chain, finance, and HR. Sounds easy to start, but this is challenging for some organizations because it seems daunting. But a lot of customers that we work with today are really investing in this, and they're seeing significant benefits like lower operational cost, better data, common recording across all of those different business lines, et cetera. There's a myriad of benefits. I mentioned this first because just starting with a foundation of a platform that is integrated, that has these functions native versus stitched together, has significant benefits. We work with the Oracle Fusion platform. This is one of the only cloud platforms that can achieve what I'm describing here, is a full end-to-end capabilities that allows you organizationally to standardize and have true end-to-end and seamless flows from sales to final billing. So to reiterate, having a fully integrated platform coupled with standardized processes that incorporates automation end-to-end can lead to significant benefits right out of the box. Let's use an example. So when you have structured real-time data captured in the field, you'll see internal benefits with accurate billing that reflects the work performed. You'll have accurate payroll because the work performed is captured, accurately. And so you'll have, and then you'll also be able to pay your team correctly the first time. You'll see faster revenue recognition as well, because having field crews enter the time and expenses and debrief information, you're able to get the billing faster and get to payroll faster, and then my apologies, I was going down the wrong track. You'll have accurate payroll because the work performed is captured accurately, so you can pay the team from an internal benefit. And then faster revenue recognition because having the field crews enter their time, expenses, and debrief, you're able to get that billing faster and get to payroll faster. Than you can subsequently pay not only your team, but you can also get paid faster from more accurate invoices. And you're not wasting time and resources with those manual processes. This in turn leads to more satisfied customers and employees because they're not dealing with downstream effects of not having correct information. Okay. And then finally, from an organizational standpoint, when you have a fully connected system from end to end, it will lead to increased revenue. You will be able to measure profitability better, and you will have better organization reporting. And that all allows you to make, as a leadership team, better data-driven decisioning across the organization. Because you have the right data, you're confident in it, you know that it's correct, and so there's a lot of really great organizational benefits for focusing on standardization across the organization, driving better, more automated processes, and so on and so forth. All right, so cool, good benefits, really important stuff. For those that may not be on this overall journey, we thought we'd at least show you what a fully connected system looks like. So I was talking about how does it all tie together. Well, here's a very kind of detailed look at what it looks like. We're showing a portion of the overall Fusion platform in these models. So on the left, you'll see all the components of a comprehensive system that connects sales opportunities to quoting and CPQ, to orders, work order management, to field service, and the downstream billing, GL reporting. Don't have to understand this. I'm going to kind of cover this piece by piece here and talking through some use cases. Traditionally, I bring this up because traditionally these modules live in different stitched together applications. You typically wouldn't have a service platform in the same platform as your ERP, as the same platform as your supply chain, as the same platform as HCM. And that can be problematic because you have to build all those integrations. In today's world, especially with Oracle Fusion, the connections are there and they're native. You don't have to necessarily build everything. You have to do some connections and some configuration when you're setting these up, but the point is that the overall platform is natively built with all of these functions in it. So you don't have to have Salesforce for your CRM, and you don't have to have an SAP platform that does part of these things. You with Oracle, you have it all interconnected in the Fusion platform. So it's important to see how the flows together and how it works. And just to maybe describe some of our use cases that we're kind of talking field execution here. We put together a little bit of a architecture, if you will. Allow me to use that term. I recognize this isn't fully comprehensive, but bear with me. So, in a scenario where you have a fully connected system, when you're talking about a lot of these flows, and most B2B and B2C scenarios, you start with sales. You engage with the customer, and with some kind of opportunity to sell your company's services or products. The sales team works through quoting, getting agreement on with a prospect on terms. They work on agreement language, et cetera, et cetera. They get to the point where that closes. And then that gets sent to the order management for initial billing. And in the scenario where there's services, to your work order management system for scheduling of the installations or the identified project work to be completed. The work order management system is the driver for field execution, where the crews or the technicians will be specifically assigned and routed to the job or activity. That layer is also where the technicians or crews are shown the work to perform, uh, uh, what they need to do, whether it be installation work or master contract work or maintenance events or break fix scenarios, whatever whatever the type of job that it is. They're provided the information they need to capture in a logical step-by-step manner within that platform. So this is where the magic happens in this field execution layer. That's where the clean data really needs to start because that's where the technician or the crew leads debrief information around time and materials used and other information that needs to be prescribed and captured in a timely way. And that drives a lot of downstream systems. And that's why, this is the most important. This field execution layer is super important because that captured information feeds supply chain from an inventory standpoint. What parts and materials were used? It drives finance for billing in terms of what needs to be invoiced back to the customer. Okay, it drives the updates for projects in terms of project performance and costing updates. And it also goes into HCM, time and labor for payroll, and then the tiebacks back to projects for salary costing and things like that. The connection between the field execution and the work order management solution and those three areas are super important because if the data isn't collected right, that's where the issues start really propagating, right? That's where data cleanups for time entries happens. That's where unbeknownst changes to the project are occurring, and data cleanup needs to happen, or incorrect bills go out. Okay, it's super important. But if the data is captured right, and the data is connected and it's accurate the first time, that's also where the return, the ROI, that's the ROI where if you have this connected and the data flows seamlessly, you are saving effort, you're driving faster billing process cycles, accurate payments to your team, accurate data for reporting, and so much more. And of course, at the end, all those systems feed into analytics. So that's where you get all of that great organizational reporting. Cool stuff. All right. So that architecture described the overall flow, but let's drill into a bit further in a couple specific use cases or flows that connects all these areas together in a logical way. The flows are typically really difficult for organizations to streamline, but as often many systems connected together and are customized to adopt its specific flows, it's really challenging. So in this example, we're talking about master contract work, but we'll also talk about installation work and maintenance and break fix use cases, just really quickly kind of through there. So in this flow, I'll walk through how the information from the point of opportunity with the sales team all the way through field execution and field data capture. And then I'll talk a little bit after a few slides about how that information captured aligns back to the back office and project management applications. Without a unified application structure, this is really difficult to achieve for a lot of customers. With Oracle Fusion, these, like I said, these capabilities are possible in the platform because they're already there. Um, so let's walk through this quickly. The first few steps align to the sales process, where they're doing business development, and maybe they're responding to an RFP for a master service contract, or they're just trying to sell your company's goods and services. Through that process, they'll potentially submit an RFP. They'll price and negotiate different terms, contract terms, define the pricing, generate a customer quote, etc. We'll assume in this scenario that they get the work. Okay. And this is a master services contract. Again, for you project-based organizations where you have a master contract with a customer and they're asking you to do different tasks, you go through another step here where you'd start estimating that specific work activity at those negotiated rates, for example. Okay. So let's say we get through that process and the customer approves. Okay. So now it moves over to, once that approval happens, a bunch of things happen. The work gets put into tasks, into projects in the overall project management and oversight tool. This also triggers the creation of work order tasks in the work order management application. And at the right time during the projects, you get the field teams engaged, and that describes the tasks that they need to do and when they need to do that. Let's assume the tasks get assigned to the right crews. They'll get assigned to the crews that have the right skill set and that are available. And once the crews and the equipment are assigned properly, they get assigned and then they go out and do the work. They are experts at the work that they're completing. But this is ultimately where the magic of all this at the root level starts. The crews will enter their time, after they do the actual work, they go through their debrief tasks. And again, this is where the magic happens. The time, the materials, the status updates, if they are capturing customer signatures and whatever other debrief information they need to capture within the field app. This is the most important step for your organization because assuming this information is captured in a timely manner, this feeds the status updates and other downstream areas in terms of like percentage completes, hours are fed into time and labor for payment, and the feeding of salary costing to projects. Materials are used and updated in inventory, and crew time, equipment, and equipment time are also sent to accounting for billing back to the customer. I don't have some of the flows here, so just bear with me. We're going to talk a little bit more after I get through two more scenarios really quickly about what happens in the back end system. And the point of all of this is just to show that without a unified platform, oftentimes customers have multiple systems that tie these things together. With Oracle, you have one unified system that connects all this together. And I'm going to talk back office here in just a few minutes. What I wanted to show here, this is an installation use case. The last one was around master services contract work. This is around, hey, we have a new customer. We need to install something for them. Okay, it's very similar flow. We have sales engaged to create the quote and the opportunity. Customer says, yes, I'm ready to go. We create a plan to install. We schedule the work and we assign the tasks to the right crews and the people with the right skill set, and we get them the right parts that they need to do the installation. They go out and do their magic and do the work. At the end, we get the debrief task. It's all structured. It's capturing all of that information around parts they used, how much time did they spend, materials that they used, etc. And that's again all sent back to those back end systems. So that's installation work. Break fix, very, very similar. The blue boxes are kind of where the differences are. With a maintenance scenario, you might have agreements that you go out and work on a project or work on an item on a quarterly basis or a semi-annual or annual or maybe even monthly or weekly, whatever your contract is. This incorporates the Oracle platform has a maintenance cloud solution that can help drive that. In this maintenance or break fix, you might also have IoT connected devices where they are triggering your team to get involved and have a technician dispatch because based on usage, based on error messages or whatever, they can automatically in this solution trigger the process to receive that maintenance request. The technician will get the parts, the work will be scheduled, the tech will be assigned, they'll do the work, they'll complete the debrief, and then all of that information that they connected will go to those back-end systems. So in all of these flows, it's all very similar. But the critical step is that data capture because then it ties into those back office processes, which I'll walk through next. Um, so before I do that, I do want to reiterate that field technician or crew data updates, it's super important. And I would highly encourage you as an organization to push driving those updates as soon as possible after the work is completed to have your crews and technicians enter that data because that drives a lot of different things. So let's talk about that a little bit. All right, so we have that field debrief information. Again, should be as quick as close to real time as possible. Okay, so I'll walk through a flow of each chunk of information that they capture. And note that I'm chunking this up to explain each area, but in reality, all of this happens when the field syncs their debrief data from field service. Um, so to start, when a crew enters their time, let's kind of talk about that. The work order updates would be sent over if you're a project-based company, the work order updates and say percent completes in terms of like units that were installed and things like that flow directly into projects. Next, the time entries would then flow into, let's say the tech or the crew leader enters their time related to the tasks that were performed and the debrief components. That information gets synced to time and labor where approvals are being made. Then the approved time will go to payroll for paying the crew. The salary costs are then sent to projects, so you get salary costs by the task performed, and that's an important measurement on projects and for measuring profitability. Additionally, those fully burdened salary costs are also sent to the GL. Okay, so this is what the integrated system looks like. Let's look at inventory. The parts and materials that the crew use would update the inventory and supply chain. And then the material costs would be updated on the project and would also update the inventory value in finance as well. Let's also talk about expenses. When your teams encounter the expenses that your team encounters in the out in the field, those would go to the expense module in finance, and that would also be updated on the project as a project expense. And it would also be sent to finance for reimbursement once that expense is approved. So at this point, your project has been updated with all the latest stats, percent completes, time and salary costs, incurred expenses. And from here, you're able to initiate the customer system updates. Oftentimes, we see organizations that are integrated with some very high volume customers, things like maybe like a Maximo application that a customer uses to manage their work and their master contract work. We can send updates to those once all of this information is there. It's going to be timely, it's going to be accurate. Okay. The next thing is that we are able to look at the project billing and drive project billing and look at the project profitability and start seeing some of that revenue recognition because all of that information that was captured from the field is now in projects, and that's going to drive ultimately billing billing to the customer and payment receipt from that customer. And that's all going to be integrated information. It's all going to be information that is accurate. And throughout this process, we've reduced a whole bunch of time and effort. And then finally, you're able to report and drive those operational, financial, and management reports with up-to-date information. We're not waiting a week. We're not waiting 2 weeks. We've got all that information being fed at a reasonable rate, real time ideally if possible, or same day for project updates. And all of that drives these downstream back office processes. This is the dream. When it all works together seamlessly, you've reduced manual effort, you've gotten more real-time information, your team is getting paid correctly, your customers are being billed properly for the work that you did, and now you have a reduction in your time to revenue recognition because the customers are paying their invoices the first time because they're correct, and they're not having to deal with challenging those. Many customers also, just as an added benefit to all this, they often see a reduction in the monthly close and annual time to close because they're spending less time fixing data problems. Good stuff. So we've covered some scenarios and why a fully end-to-end platform is so important and real financial and organizational efficiency paybacks. Hopefully you can see that. Let's just maybe talk about some ideas. If you're not on that journey, what are some ideas and some things that you can focus your efforts on to eventually get to that best practice state that we just covered? There's a lot of different areas that you could focus on, and some of it may seem daunting, and some may seem easier said than done. And I'm the first to say it's going to take some work. And I'll be the first to tell you that. Some of these things are not easy to tackle, but when you look at some of the benefits that you achieve by having that fully connected solution, will see significant benefits. Okay. We've highlighted a few key areas across organizational technology strategies, and I'll call a few points for your front and back office initiatives. From an organizational standpoint, standardization is a really important starting point. Adopting a mindset that we can do better as an organization, and standardization on processes and technology has significant value and benefit across the organization, is something that needs to come from your leadership and be kind of socialized organizationally. That leads to the next point, where in order to standardize, there needs to be a full end-to-end platform. Obviously we talked about that here. You saw the benefit earlier in the presentation. With the end-to-end platform, you'll be better equipped to make better data-driven decisions and plan and run your business more effectively. Okay. From a technology strategy standpoint, going along with that end-to-end enterprise platform, that helps with the first recommendation to focus on integrating your process and applications. I realize not every application can be encompassed in your enterprise platform, as some functions are niche for your specific business. But in order to automate processes and drive efficiencies with your users, it's important to have the right information at the right time. And there's a great opportunity to leverage AI to help with automation of processes and help with communications, content generation, and much more. We could spend a whole session, frankly, talking about how AI will be a key part of all of what I've described. But know that it's there, especially in the Oracle platform. AI is embedded and getting enriched every single day, and getting added to every single day. It's pretty impressive. Finally, focusing on capturing and maintaining clean data is another strategy that you must adopt. You gotta put effort towards it, and putting the controls in place to capture and maintain clean data. Too many organizations we work with get by with mediocre data because they don't have the right processes and tools in place. And so addressing that has been a challenge for them, but there's significant benefit to having a focus on that. A little more specifically around service, from that service standpoint, it's important to enable your customer to self-serve as much as possible. It seems obvious, but organizations we've recently spoken with, surprisingly, still have rudimentary customer self-service engagement. I highlighted this because I think you can significantly reduce your call or inquiry volume from your customers if you allow them to make requests and view invoices and create orders and search the knowledge without having to call someone within your organization. Along with this, you need a centralized work management solution to facilitate the intake of those customer requests and maybe the work coming in from projects. Again, if you're a project-based organization, that's the hub that lets you initiate engagement with your field operations and also ultimately helps drive connections to the back office. Finally, again, obviously, if you haven't heard about AI, then you're living in a cave somewhere. But the service world is frankly going through kind of a revolution right now, if you will, with incorporating AI into the mix, from leveraging AI to automatically disposition and respond to customers, to content generation, to process automation using smart AI. The traditional call center is frankly evolving into the blend of AI agents, or some call it agentic AI, and leveraging humans for more complex escalations. Agents are not the ones that should be fielding emails or self-service requests in today's ecosystem of applications. They should be the ones that are validating that AI is responding appropriately and answering these more complex issues. If you're not adopting an AI strategy, frankly, you need to. You need to look at it and see if get to a technology that it frankly incorporates, because there's a huge potential and opportunities to drive more efficiency in your organization at lower costs. From a field service standpoint, we've learned a key is to frankly keep it simple. The crews and the techs are experts at the work they're doing. Obviously, the field service platform has to be easy for them to use, to present the information they need to complete their work and enable them to capture what they did seamlessly. If it's too complex, they struggle to use it, or you'll get bad data from them. And this is important, really important in certain markets where they have high turnover rates. We've actually had customers say that they've lost staff because the systems are too hard for their technicians to work with, and they feel like it's wasting their time, and they decided to go to a different company that has better systems. Amazing, but it's a reality. So highly encourage you to drive field teams to provide, to use your systems in a simple way, and less complex way. The other thing that we highly encourage you to do, and I mentioned this I think maybe 3 times now because it's important, is to drive regular field updates. You don't want them to wait a week or 2 weeks to enter their time, to enter their information. I get it. There's sometimes situations where they're in remote locations, so you can't always get it real time. There's obviously nuances to that, but if you have the ability to drive more real-time information, it's only going to benefit your organization. And then finally, from a back office standpoint, just a couple points here. We'd suggest having a focus on driving that field data, because that ultimately drives important updates to projects, and looking at project profitability in a more real-time way. There's a lot of benefits to that, so that you can change the way that you're managing those projects. Okay. We also suggest ensuring that the time and inventory and expenses are connected with that field data, are then subsequently connected into your back office systems. You don't want that to be manually entered. We've talked to many customers that have field data capture that comes into their dispatchers. Their dispatchers have to manually enter that into 3 or 4 different systems, and there's often typos or issues, and there's disconnects between the dispatchers and the field crews that causes a lot of additional conversation, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of inefficiencies with that. So highly encourage you to do that. And ultimately, all of this would drive your ability to, as an organization, to get that revenue recognition. If you're spending time addressing challenges with customer issues or billing or things like that, it's time to take a look at it and see how you can do better. Because the more money that you get in, the quicker it's better for your organization, obviously. So, lots of more areas that we could cover, and I would encourage you to make these topics a priority that we talked about today. We at Apex IT have a lot of experience in these areas, and can talk about how customers have overcome that. So we would welcome a conversation with you to talk more in depth about any questions that you have. You can do this. This is something that you can tackle. There's a lot to this, getting to that dream state. There's a lot of work that is involved from a change management and, et cetera, et cetera. There's just technology changes, process changes, but it's worth it. We've seen it. We've helped companies implement it. We've had them be very successful adopting these strategies and these connected systems, and they are a better organization as a result of it. So thank you for your time today and for listening. Really appreciate your time, and would welcome any questions that you have. We'll have a time of Q&A coming up here. But if you have any follow-up questions for those that weren't able to attend, My contact information, again, this is Keegan Olson. My email address and phone number are there. So I am happy to help and talk to you in depth about this. And yeah, thanks again for your time.